call a family member, tell your cousin, tell your auntie, tell your uncle. CVM is where it's at, and you have to watch us to see it all happen. Très magnifique. Hello, bonjour, comment ça va? Merci beaucoup.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Well, according to the latest data from the United Nations women currently represent 23.3% of cabinet members heading ministries in 2024, a less than 0.5 percentage point increase from 2023, and continue to primarily lead portfolios related to women and gender equality, family and children affairs, social affairs, and indigenous and minority affairs. While policy domains such as economic affairs, defense, justice, and home affairs continue to be dominated by men. As at the 1st of January 2024, only 27 countries are led by women, a modest increase from just 18 countries a decade ago. However, with the American electorate expected to soon be presented with a woman presidential candidate, it seemed an appropriate time to revisit the topic of democracy and women in leadership from a global perspective. A short feature now, authored by Jonathan Atkins, provides additional context for tonight's lead story.
Over 200 years since the emergence of modern democracy. However, democracy has in recent years increasingly been contoured by the feminine touch relative to its deeply masculine history. Angela Merkel, Benazir Bhutto, Margaret Thatcher, Theresa May, Giorgia Meloni, Eugenia Charles, Mia Mottley, Kamla Persad-Bissessar. What do these women have in common? All women who have led the government of their respective countries with a mandate from the electorate. None of these female world leaders are American. So with 46 presidents since the foundation of the Union, American democracy has been almost exclusively led with testosterone, with a largely uniformed ethnic pattern of elected leaders with the exception of former President Barack Obama. In 2021, Kamala Harris broke new ground, becoming the first female U.S. vice president. But it remains puzzling for some. How can a nation of progressive ideas be trailing its allies like the UK, who has seen 3 female leaders? And even countries in the Caribbean like Dominica with Eugenia Charles, and Jamaica with our very own Portia Simpson Miller. While women have occupied high positions in the U.S. government, namely 3 female secretaries of state, 1 Speaker of the House, cabinet position, and governors, female candidates who have run for office had long resumes of accomplishment. Nonetheless, the coveted role of POTUS has been elusive for women who dared launch campaigns to attain that ambition. But why? In Jamaica, we currently have a record number of women holding political office. But are the women wielding the real political power? Has the glass ceiling been broken globally? Or is the world waiting on its largest economy and most influential nation to lead the way for an era where girls really can run the world?
Thanks, Trisha Gay. Well, I'm Nika Lewis, sitting in for your regular host, George Davis, and joining me for the lead story this evening is Zulika Jess, attorney at law, and she's a PNP caretaker for Northeast St. Elizabeth. She'll be online. We also have Dr. Nadine Spence, gender and development studies expert, and in studio later on, we'll be joined by Titania Clark. She's the vice president for G2K. Well, welcome, Ms. Jess.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Indeed. So you may have seen quite a bit from that storyline that we just shared regarding women in powerful positions, especially in politics. And you are no stranger to that. Talk to us about what it takes to really be a representative as a woman in Jamaica in politics.
I think it is no secret that it is certainly not an easy road for those of us who are women in politics here in Jamaica. I think it requires a certain level of grit and grace, as they would say. It requires tenacity. You have to be prepared to take strong and bold decisions, even if it means that it's not necessarily the popular decision. And you have to have the stamina and the backbone to follow through and to ensure that your positions remain firm regardless of the interference, the external interference. So it requires a certain level of tenacity more so than anything else. It requires strong belief in your positions and your purpose. And I would really add that for you to succeed as a woman in politics here in Jamaica, you also have to make sure that you have sincerity of purpose. So you have to make sure that your aim is actually true so that others can relate to you, meaning that, the grassroots can understand that you have their interest at heart, because oftentimes they're the ones who will help you to fight the battles that you face, because you do face certain battles, especially when it comes on to the quote-unquote boys club that exists. So it does require a certain level of tenacity and sincerity of purpose to succeed.
All right. Well, we have now on set with me Titania Clark, the Vice President for G2K. Welcome, Titania.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you came at an apt time because we are trying to understand what it takes to become a leader in Jamaica's political arena, especially as a female. And I know that you are no stranger to that leadership role. So what is it that makes you uniquely gritted for this role in Jamaica?
The word gritted is probably one of the most appropriate terms to describe it. I think you have to be aware. You cannot go into the political atmosphere being coy or being shy of the fact that, as Jalika said, it is almost like a boys' club. And so you have to stand up, you have to be firm, and you have to be counted while maintaining your femininity, because there is a larger space that is expecting you to bring a level of sincerity and emotion to the game.
Dr. Spence, you're still with us online, and we want to bring you into the discussion because from where you sit, gender plays a major role in the success of certain people and leaders especially. What sort of studies or findings do you typically see when it pertains to women accelerating in certain fields, especially in political leadership?
Well, firstly, it's to recognize that the matter of women in leadership is not just left up to women's own conviction and how women feel and think about leadership. A lot of it has to do with systemic challenges and historical and cultural realities that are located in time-held traditions and beliefs and practices that say that a woman's place is confined to a particular space. So, for example, we know that we have emerged out of a cultural tradition and a political tradition which says men are supposed to lead, and that is something that is supported by biblical teachings, by the church. That is something that the society itself holds dear and true. So when a woman attempts to lead, she's not just testing her personal mettle, she's challenging centuries-old ideas and ideals about who should lead and why they should lead. So the matter of women's access to leadership, yes, a lot of it has to do with women's own inclinations and ambitions, but more of it has to do with the culture, the systems, the institutions, the beliefs, the ideals that exist in a society, and what those say about who a woman is and where she should be.
Yes.
And so we continue to see very, we see that women are less ambitious than men when it comes on to leadership, and especially political leadership, because they've been socialized into believing, for the most part, that a woman's place is in the home, or a woman's place is at her husband's side. And those kind of teachings are teachings that we can relate to.
Happy you went there. Zulika, if I might bring you back to the conversation, is there a time, or is Jamaica in a space where there is a belief now that women really should be in parliament or in politics?
I think the general view amongst the wider population is that women, we have a place to play. We have a place here in politics, and I think that they understand that we have a part to play, and we bring something different from our male counterparts. We bring emotional intelligence. We bring a certain softer approach to the politics, and our focus and our interest tend to align more with the best interest of the wider population. And so I believe that, by and large, the wider community really want to see more women in politics. I think that at the institutional levels, that is where the greatest challenge for us as women tend to arise. Because Nadine mentioned the word ambition earlier, and I listened very keenly when I heard her mention that, because as a woman in politics, if you aspire for certain office, then you are described as being ambitious. But if you are a man in politics, I've never heard the word ambitious being used in a negative connotation where our male counterparts are concerned. So I think that it depends. The answer to your question really depends on what aspect we're looking at. If we're looking at how it is that we are viewed from the organizational and the institutional aspects, then clearly I would say that sometimes, because we are oftentimes going up against the status quo and the establishment, then there are those who believe that perhaps we should wait, or time will come. But by and large, the wider population, the wider Jamaican population, genuinely believe that women make really good leaders. And you see how well the Jamaican population would have gone out and voted for female candidates. So I think that generally people understand now that there is a space for women in politics, and that we add value to the political landscape.
Well, I'm going to ask you, Titania, in that view, why then is it a perception for many, or of many, that women in politics are tended to softer political roles, like not the hard-hitting issues or the portfolios that carry weight?
So I'm happy you made mention of that, because that's where I was going to position the conversation. Because the truth is, when we're looking at women in politics, yes, Jamaicans love to see women in politics, but it's almost like the Disability Act that was passed, having ramps in schools, ensuring that our new money and the birth certificate has Braille so that people can read it. It's really access. And when you're thinking about women in politics, you are thinking about a lady being able to balance both her family, because that is the innate need of most women, family with ambition. And so you identify, looking at going on the campaign, and I'm sure Zulika can think about this, when you think about being on the campaign from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the night, nobody says, which restroom will the man use? Because it's just natural that he may find a corner somewhere and do whatever. But for a female, you have to think about, are you seeing your menstruation today? Would you need a proper use of the toilet? These are some of the things that we as women have to step back a little and think about, and it's really access. And when you think about the softer roles, as you put it, it's, while some may say it's emotional intelligence, I think it is us getting there as a people and understanding that there's a reason why 47% of Jamaica's household is matriarchal, a single parent home with predominantly women. And that is because we are constantly fighting ourselves to be something that really and truly, it should be natural. It shouldn't be a fight.
All right, well, lead story continues in a moment. Stay with us.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
Freedom! Imagine Fest 24 under the patronage of MP Natalie Nita Garvey at Sligoville Stadium, July 31, Kiddies Village, Gospel Night, Kevin Downsville Road, Isabella Carey, Sales and more. August 1, Sports, Midday Concert, Celebrity Cook-Off, Senator Damon Crawford, MP Juliet Cuthbert, SSP Stephanie Lindsay, Reggae Showcase, Sizzla, Kalanji, Bugle, Elaine and more. Admission is free. Sponsors TPD, CDF, Airports Authority, CVM, NHF, Grace Kennedy, Burger King, New Era Fencing, Jamaica 62, Sepron, Guinness, Maggie, Jackson Enterprises, SDC and Connect. Don't miss it.
Listen, I'm about to drive. Let me call you back.
Road safety begins with you.
a message from the Road Safety Unit in the Island Traffic Authority.
You've seen it here on CVM TV. You're watching Lead Story, and we're talking about democracy and women in leadership. Of course, the hotly contested presidential candidacy or presidential runoffs in the U.S. will be contested for the first time in a long time by a female who is of Caribbean descent. Well, she doesn't necessarily identify with that, but we claim her somehow. And so we are talking more and more about women in leadership roles, especially in political arenas. We have over, 27 nations now headed by women. And so women seemingly have been breaking the barriers and those typical glass ceilings that they've encountered through life. We have joining us three powerful females themselves. We have Zuleika Jess. She is a representative from the People's National Party and an aspiring politician in some sense still, because she is a PNP caretaker for the Northeastern St. Elizabeth seat. And we also have Dr. Nadine Spence, gender and development studies expert, and in studio, Titania Clark. She is the vice president for G2K. So welcome back, ladies. All right, Dr. Spence, I don't want you to feel left out. I want to know why Jamaica has managed to first the U.S. in electing a female leader.
I think perhaps because, I don't know, I think the U.S. has gotten so close to it so many times. But I think you have to understand how political parties work in respect of the support they throw behind candidates and the winnability factor and how they assess a candidate's likelihood to win an election. So what we're seeing in the US is that up to now, a woman hasn't won an election. And I think what they are saying is that the women are not likely to win. The winnability issue is their problem. Yes. It's not, I think it's not competence right now. I think it's how likely is it that a woman will win when you have a candidate who is willing to lean into ideals and ideas that are located in misogyny, sexism, and the patriarchal construct of how societies are arranged. So the political parties are making judgments as to whether or not they are going to put a candidate based on the likelihood of them winning. And I think that happens in Jamaica as well.
Yes.
Our political parties are doing that. Nowadays, they are nullifying the woman factor by, if PNP puts a woman in one seat, you will see a JLP put a woman there. Vice versa. So they're calculating the gender effect, and some people are seeking to cancel it out, and some people are looking at it and the likelihood of women winning when women go up against men. And what a lot of people are saying is that if, in the American context, if women go up against a certain kind of man, chances are she won't win.
Titania, you're itching to go.
Yes, because Dr. Spence made mention of a very key word. Winnability. Right? That's what you said, Dr. Spence, because the truth is, yes, there is the factor of gender, but there's a bigger factor at play, which is how society perceives gender. Because every political party goes to the table, they pull out their numbers, they run their canvas, they run the surveys, they run the polls to identify, can you win? And the only way to determine if you win, it's not the amount of money that you have, it is whether or not the people will vote for you. And so while we can debate whether or not the Democrats or the Republicans, if it's a misogynistic party or if they believe in women, the bigger debate is whether society, whether America believes that a woman can lead them. Because there must be, politics is a science, it's called political science. There must be a science behind the numbers that will determine, that has determined in the past that a female would not win. And what is that science? And that is something that as a society in a whole, America will have to dissect to identify, is it that the political organizations are misogynistic, or are they, as a country,
it seems there's a division among the women, because why wouldn't women support women? Because women outnumber men globally in any case. So why wouldn't women vote for women? Don't we trust ourselves?
I think it
boils... No, Nika, wait a minute. Can I jump in here?
Please. And then I want to hear from you, Miss Jess.
Okay, so let me finish what I was saying. There is also the matter of likability and competence. Yes. People don't necessarily like women. The likability scores for women are usually low. So even though women can be competent, get the job done, and are able to lead more effectively, what the research has shown is that women score low on likability.
Correct.
Now, what we need to do is dissect what is it? Why is it that people tend to like women less? And we see
I would want to know that.
We see that a lot in how women, even in Jamaica, are portrayed. We judge women based on their hairstyle, on their clothes. If they're wearing the wrong color tonight, it might turn people off. We look at women's fingernail. We look at some very trivial issues that we use to judge women. I don't like the way she sounded. She reminded me of my grandmother. Men are not subject to those kinds of
criticisms.
And they don't have to meet those requirements. So because of those kinds of
example.
And the society might decide that the society itself might not be willing to vote a woman in. But let me tell you this, for Jamaica, Jamaican people vote more for women than they do for men. It's the political parties that are afraid to put women up in Jamaica.
Oh.
So, because in the last election, the winnability rate for the women who ran the elections for both parties, particularly for the JLP, was higher than for the men in Jamaica. If you check the scores, how many women did we put up? How many of them win? How many men did we put up?
But Miss Jess can answer some of these questions for us, because you would have been out there before. You faced the political pundits and you faced the dragons at the voting station. But what do you believe is causing people to not say, hey, let me give my vote to her undoubtedly. Let me give her the chance to lead?
I think that it boils down to the fact that women, we are judged by a different standard than our male counterparts. And so the harsh reality is that the things that we are subjected to in terms of a decision as to whether or not persons want to see us represent them, those considerations are oftentimes different from the ones that they apply to the males. So very simple things, even in the case of Kamala Harris. You note where the Republicans have gone in the direction of attacking her based on the fact that she doesn't have children of her own. They would never attack a man and to question his winnability solely on the basis of whether or not he has children. So
in fact, it might have been remarkable and they'd commend him for being a father to someone else's child or children.
You know,
absolutely. And so that is one of the major reasons I think that women have a difficulty. The other reason is that for us in Jamaica, I find, and if you look at the statistics, you will find that for both political parties, we tend to put the women in the seats which are most difficult to win. The garrison seats are the seats that the women oftentimes are the only ones brave enough to take on. And oftentimes that's where the vacancy lies. So that will clearly play a factor in determining how many women actually advance when they face the polls. So it's a number of issues ranging from the different standards by which women are judged. I can tell you as men, when men come onto the political scene, they are assumed to be competent, they are assumed to be qualified. When you are a woman entering the politics, you have to prove that you are competent.
Perhaps because we came to politics later than men.
Yes. So, I have a thought-provoking question for the viewers at home.
No, because of sexism. Don't say that.
Yes.
I'm guided, Dr. Spence.
You must call it what it is.
Yes.
The way our is structured. There's something called the gender division of labor. We expected women to stay home, breastfeed, and take care of children. And the public space was for men. So women are in gender, women are described as private citizens. You're not supposed to exist outside of the home. How dare you enter politics? This is a man's domain. And so we have to recognize that women are seeking to get over those beliefs that are located in the idea that men are better suited for something.
For certain roles.
The gender division of labor, which is why women will head social security and gender and something, and you might
the
show up
softer portfolios.
Yeah. What are seen as softer, more powerful, not necessarily softer, because the reason why they're also called softer is because they're far removed from human reality, the direct contact with people, which to me makes them more powerful. So even the frame, look at those.
Titania wants to come in, Dr. Spence.
Sorry, Titania.
No problem, Dr. Spence. I know this is your passionate topic, but I have a thought-provoking question for the viewers at home. The men in the political space wear predominantly one color jacket suit. What color is that, you'd like to tell me?
Blue.
Blue. Can you imagine a female parliamentarian wearing a blue dress every week?
No, I cannot.
No, you cannot. And do you know what the headline would say if a female parliamentarian wore a blue dress every week?
Pray tell.
She don't have no clothes. She broke. What is them bring come give people? These are some of the things. We think it's trivial, but the truth is when you look every single day, your male parliamentarians have on probably the same suit and the same black or blue shoes, or black and brown shoes every single week. As women, we don't have that privilege. And so Zulika made a very good example of them targeting Kamala and her reproductive rights. But that's a big, big topic. We have the trivial things dealing with. And while for many it's